If someone put you under full body anesthesia right now, all the tight muscles in your body would completely let go as your cerebellum basically was shut down from the anesthesia. So anything tight in your body, all those tight hamstrings and backs and necks and everything would just let go because the cerebellum is shut off and the settings aren't being engaged in your tissue. And then as the anesthesia wears off and the cerebellum wakes back up, that tension all comes back into that tissue. So in my perspective on what I'm doing with the body is I don't actually really think I am changing the tissue. I am communicating with your cerebellum that the settings of the tissue need to be changed.
The Vidal Speaks podcast.
Episode 58, Gary Crowley, Do-It-Yourself Joint Pain Relief. Welcome to Vidal Speaks. My name is Deborah Vidal, former 11-year LPGA golf pro turned classical homeopath, certified plant-based nutritionist, and wellness coach. Each week here on Vidal Speaks, we bring you knowledge, inspiration, or natural remedies to help you take charge of your health and feel your best. I believe health is freedom and knowledge is power, so tuning in each week will give you the power to take steps towards freeing yourself from the chains that hold you back from having the energy to do all you want in life. No matter where you are in your journey of wellness, Vidal Speaks can help. I promise. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. And if your day just started like mine because I release every episode at 5 a.m. on Wednesdays, then may this episode help you have a great start to your day. I'm feeling good today. Remember last week I told you that Lloyd and I are doing this 28-day cleanse? It's a huge detox cleanse. I felt the need to do something drastic after the holidays. And because the Dr. Clapper episode inspired me so much, but the water fast is just not one that's easy for either Lloyd or I because we just don't have too much excess weight to lose. Well, him more than me, but I don't have that much cushion either, so we thought maybe we would do a juice cleanse. And as you guys know, Lloyd has this chronic pain syndrome that no one knows why. It mostly manifests as pain in his feet. It's for sure some unknown neurological issue, but I read this amazing book this week on this guy who's this medical medium, and I'll for sure do everything possible to get him on the show. But he speaks of how many millions of people have these mystery neurological illnesses that are just affecting people all around the globe. I'm the detox queen, as you guys know, and I've been on a life search for the last years to do my best to understand what's going on in the world because I want to make sense out of all those things that I saw in my practice where patients came to me so sick. And now with so many dying young from cancer and autoimmune disease. And I really want to understand it and not just use one sentence to explain it all, like it's all from diet or it's all from environmental toxins. Yes, both of those are really true, but I know it's more than that. And I feel my role in healing in this lifetime has to do with changing the world and contributing to healing the masses, not just the few people that I could see in my practice. I've known that this is my life path for a while, and I just wasn't sure what change would happen to get me to be able to reach more people. And then I got this idea of doing a podcast because I myself love listening so much to them. And then it hit me, yes, what a great way to speak the truth to so many. And by having all you guys with me every week and spreading the word, then the information gets out there thanks to your desire to give it to others. And when a grassroots effort like this happens, it can be unstoppable. So reading this book this week helped me so much understand Lloyd's pain syndrome in a way that gave me confidence about what I had suspected all along. But many times I had so many ideas that I didn't even know where to start or what the right order is to work on them. Now I think for the first time I understand why he has the issue and how we can fix it. And the first action of my understanding is to do this 28-day detox and a cleanse. So that's why we we felt like this was the right thing for us to do because we're following this protocol to kind of rid his body, and I'm doing it with him because who can't use a great detox? We're going to rid our bodies of toxins and really work on lowering inflammation so then we can begin a new protocol. I'm just a person that never gives up trying to fix my patients, my loved ones, or myself. Lloyd has been a big challenge for that because nothing's really helped him. And I know the body has this amazing capability to heal. And I've learned over the years that things just need to make sense to me before I can start them. And I've been on this investigative journey and searching for years. And I finally feel that I have a handle on this understanding of the millions of people out there who are suffering from mystery symptoms that give them a life full of chronic pain. It's horrible. I had all the pieces of the puzzle, but this guy just helped me put it all together and make sense. I hope to get him on the show, and for sure I'll tell you guys more about it in the future. But for now, just keep your fingers crossed that we make it through this cleanse, and I can get him on the show so I can tell you more about it. Anyway, speaking of pain, you'll love the show today because it's about how to fix your own joint pains. You guys know I love sharing anything that teaches you how to heal yourself. And my guest today, Gary Crowley, has worked on over 30,000 bodies, so he knows his stuff. I have personally used his work to help me recover when my back went out and I couldn't even get out of bed. So if you suffer from any joint pain, fingers, wrist, elbow, necks, backs, or feet, better said, from head to toe, Gary has a way to get you out of it. Even migraines, and even if your dog has joint pains, he can help you. So you have to listen today because then you'll understand how he developed his method, why it works, and how it works. And then you can go to his free website and watch all the videos that apply to your joint that has pain. And don't tell me you don't have time for that, because his videos are about 3 minutes each. So a few minutes and a tennis ball and you can fix your chronic pain that you've had for years. It works, and I promise you it will work for you. So first let me tell you about Gary and then we'll get started. So when I asked Gary to send me his bio, he just sent over this short little paragraph. But one thing I can tell you is although his bio may seem short, his training and his feel for the body is immense, so don't let that fool you. Gary was born and raised in New England. He graduated from Stanford University with degrees in economics and political science. He graduated from the Rolf Institute of Structural Integration 25 years ago. After studying everything he could over the years, he is now giving it away via the internet to anyone he might be able to help out of pain with his techniques and understanding of the human body. That includes dogs too. After working on over 30,000 bodies, Gary says he feels he has some valuable insights and hopes to help millions of people all over the world benefit from these insights. I also want to tell you he's the author of 2 books. The first one, From Here to Here, Turning Toward Enlightenment, and the second one is called Pass the Jelly, Tales of Ordinary Enlightenment. So please check them out on Amazon. I'll have the links in the show notes, but one of them is super funny. They both have really good reviews, and the other one sounds really good. So check them out and have a good read. If you live in the San Diego area, you should go pay a visit to Gary. I'll go see him for sure when I head that way sometime in the near future. Okay, you guys, are you ready to relax and just enjoy this one? Gary's very funny and likable, so you'll enjoy him. Sit back, relax, drive, work out, or do whatever you feel like, but just be sure you enjoy this one, guys. Okay, here we go. Hi, Gary. Welcome to the Vidal Speaks podcast, and thanks so much for taking the time to speak about how we can help ourselves heal our body's aches and pains today.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for all the work you do to make this happen.
Well, I'll be thanking you all throughout this podcast. You'll hear why soon. But as an ex-professional golfer, I can tell you injuries are something I'm very familiar with. And that's obviously how I know about your work. And I really want to spread it out to the world for you because it's great and it really helped me. So I'm looking forward to getting into talking about your technique. So before we start, though, I want to know first, how did you go from a political science and economics guy to Rolfing?
Well, the story goes that in my younger days, I was coming out of high school. I was an elite level runner who went out to Stanford with big hopes and dreams and injured my knee, and no one could fix my knee. I went to all the best Stanford doctors and 49er doctors, and everybody looked at my knee, and we talked about my knee and did lots of physical therapy on it, but nobody could really work it out. And I couldn't train, so I couldn't, after a couple of years of living in the training room, I had to let that go. But then the very end of my senior year, I went to basically a Rolfer, someone who was trained in structural integration, which Dr. Ida Rolf developed. And I'd been to everybody, but I thought I'd give this guy a shot. And he worked on my hip for about 45 minutes, and I stood up and my knee didn't hurt for the first time in about 3.5 years. And I was kind of amazed and kind of shocked that I had been to all the very well-intentioned best doctors in the country. And this guy, with his hands working on my hip, helped my knee to stop hurting. And, I understand now that basically my knee hurt because my knee wasn't being allowed to function in the way it was designed to function, which was kind of go straight forward and back when you run. And when my femur and my hip were tight and kind of misaligned, it made my knee track a little funny. And, at, 80, 100 miles a week of running, that adds up to your knee hurting a lot. But then, yes, I had degrees in economics and political science, so that basically meant I was useless. So I had to go work in corporate America because, I couldn't even weld two pieces of metal together. So I was completely miserable in the corporate world, and I love that there's people out there who love what they do in that world because I love all the services they provide, but it wasn't for me. And so after trying to figure out that what I wanted to do, I kind of realized I was always reading about bodies and working on bodies because I was kind of fascinated with my own history around that. And at one point I just loaded up my car and drove to Boulder, Colorado to go to the Rolf Institute. And 30,000 bodies later, here we sit with me helping people fix their own bodies.
I figured you had to have an injury because it's kind of like homeopaths. When people say, why'd you become a homeopath? Most of them become a homeopath because they got sick and either they went to a homeopath that got them better or nothing else had helped them. So I figured that. And I lived in Boulder for about 1.5 years. I loved it. I actually felt when I was there, it's funny, I lived in Boulder and I lived in Encinitas, and now you live in Encinitas. So I think I was meant to find your work. I was definitely
because we are,
work.
I've read your biography and we're the classic wounded healer.
No doubt about that. And also, we're both doing what we're doing to give everything back and to the world for free. You have an amazing website. We're going to get into that into a minute. But I just want to tell you something about Boulder because the Rolf Institute was right around the corner from where I lived. And there was an advertisement at the co-op that they wanted kind of like
Victims?
a student.
Victims.
Yeah, victim for the class, for the teacher to work on.
Yes.
And I was playing the LPGA then, and I was going to be home for some time because I think I was out for some months with an injury. And so I put my name on the list, and I think there were probably at least 100. And I got picked because they probably said, geez, look at this girl's injury list. This would be perfect. But anyway, I got picked, and I didn't have a great experience. And I know part of that is it depends on who's working with you.
It depends a great deal, unfortunately.
Yeah. So sadly, my first experience, I had heard all this stuff, Rolfing, and it's really painful and they work really deeply and it can change your life. And I had a spine that was totally twisted with one shoulder like 3 inches lower than other, my neck from an accident I'll tell you later down the road. But anyways, I figured I should be a good candidate because I was really a mess. I had lots of injuries, but it didn't really help me because I didn't feel like the teacher for my body worked deep enough to change anything because I think my body was holding on to this long time old injury for so long and she just couldn't get in there and undo it. Because since then I have worked with another Rolfer that helped me tremendously. So I do believe it's the person.
Yeah, when people email me from wherever they are and ask, can you recommend someone in my area? I send them this little blurb that I cut and paste into an email that basically says, look, I have in my life, I think about 10% of people doing what they do really kind of get it. and the others are, they do okay. But I think you got to go find whether it's someone cutting your hair, fixing your car, or working on your teeth. There's some people, and for like most things, those everybody can, whatever. If you have your back hurts from sitting in a chair too much, most people can fix that. But then as you get more kind of sophisticated in your injuries, sometimes you need someone who is just obsessed with bodies, and that's all they think about.
Like you.
Yes.
Like you. So let's, just in case the audience, they probably heard the word Rolfing, and I know it's been now kind of changed to structural integration, but maybe you could take a minute here and just explain what it is.
Okay. So Dr. Ida Rolf developed a system called structural integration, and much to her dismay, apparently, it became known as Rolfing. So it actually started as structural integration. But the simplest way I've learned to describe it over the years is basically if you think of all the muscles in your body, like the rigging on a big old sailboat with all the ropes tied to all the different masts and things. When all the muscles are the appropriate tension and the appropriate length, everything in our body, all our bones and all the nerves and everything can sit with appropriate space and freedom where they're designed to sit, and they can function kind of the way they were designed to function. But as some of the rigging gets inappropriately tight, and in our bodies, especially the bigger, stronger pieces of rigging, the bigger, stronger muscles, when they especially get tight, they start pulling other things out of position, because bones only go where muscles pull or hold them, right? Because muscles are attached to bones, which are basically chunks of calcium. They don't really move on their own. They move where the soft tissue pulls or holds them. So most of the time, when someone has chronic structural pain in their body or lack of function in a joint, as long as nothing is ripped or broken, it's basically a soft tissue issue. If it's ripped or broken, you need the surgeons to go sew that stuff up and do all the amazing and wonderful things they do. But most people with chronic structural pain just have inappropriately tight tissue somewhere in their body affecting that joint and making it hurt. And the tricky part and the genius of Dr. Rolf was that she figured out basically that usually, as long as nothing is ripped or broken in the body, usually the chronic pain, where it hurts is not why it hurts. And what the traditional Western doctors are fantastic and amazing and incredible at fixing physical things where it hurts, where why it hurts is where it hurts. When you got a bone sticking out of your skin, you got a bullet in your body, like those things it hurts, why it hurts is where it hurts. But again, with her genius was figuring out that, this person's back hurts because their hip muscles and their quads and their hamstrings or whatever are so tight they're torquing all the bones of the pelvis, and that's making their back hurt. Or their neck hurts because all the muscles in their shoulder girdle are basically torquing the shoulder blades and causing the neck muscles to tighten, and that's why your neck hurts. And so the genius of Dr. Rolf was that she basically figured out to kind of look at the body from a 180-degree different perspective than your typical Western doctor. And again, as long as nothing is ripped or broken, that is usually how you fix somebody. And that's why Western doctors, who again do many incredible and amazing things, they don't really do too well with chronic structural pain when nothing's ripped or broken, because they will say, well, there's nothing wrong. And from a Rolfing perspective, or from my perspective, because I'm somewhat, to be clear right now, I'm a bit of a heretic in the Rolfing world at this point. So, but understanding that basically the doctors worry about what's wrong, and in a certain way, a Rolfer or an integrative body worker ideally is worried more about what's not right. And so usually if you fix all the things that aren't right, what's wrong goes away, because your body then has the appropriate space and freedom to function in the way it was designed to function.
That's a good way to put it. And it's a little bit like homeopathy. The symptoms are the clue, but you have to investigate and find what the cause is, and where the problem is. And doctors don't really do that. They just kind of manage symptoms with either drugs or, like you said, if a bone's sticking out, they can repair that.
And they're great at that. Your ACL is torn in half. Great. Don't come to me. Have them sew that thing back together. But
right.
It's hard. And to be fair to them, it really is the opposite way to think about a body. And they're trained to think about it one way. And, I'm trained to think about it another way. So
yeah, and we need both.
Yeah.
We need both. It's just that in my experience, the people that have this kind of chronic pain, they're the ones that fall through the cracks of society because they go practitioner, 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 doctor, doctor, doctor. And if you're not, let's say, maybe never heard of Rolfing, or, you tried a few and it didn't help you or whatever, sometimes you just end up with 50 years of chronic pain. I mean, I have that story myself. I'll tell you a little bit about my story because I think sometimes it helps to use a story to talk about a technique, because your technique, since we're talking by audio and not video, then maybe it's a little bit easier to put it in and then you'll understand how I found your work. But first of all, at the age of 11, I was thrown from my horse and I went way up in the air, kind of like did a flip, and I landed on my sacrum and tailbone, and then I slammed my head back on the ground. And all I really remember is trying to catch my breath. And after, I don't know how long, I was 11, but I just remember feeling I was going to die and suffocate. And suddenly I came out of my body and I watched them resuscitate me from above. So I was trying to talk to people and ask them why they couldn't hear me. And I heard them say that I broke my spine, and I woke up in the ambulance. And since that day, I kind of knew that my role in life was to help people in any way that I could. I didn't really understand that at that age, and I questioned it for a while until I read a bunch of books of people who had the same experience of going through the tunnel and seeing the light. But when I woke up, my life radically changed, not just emotionally, like I'm telling you, because it was such an amazing experience, but I had chronic migraines that started shortly after that injury. And my dad is a medical doctor, so they don't believe in chiropractors. And back then I didn't go. I went to the ER and they told me I was lucky and didn't break my spine, but that I would have some injuries because I was completely bruised and beat up in my spine. And so what happened was years of headaches. That's the main thing, because I was so young, my body was kind of compensating pretty well for all the other crooked spine stuff. But come to find out, like 6-7 years later, when I did go see a chiropractor for my headaches, they couldn't believe that my atlas was swung so far to the right. I mean, they said they've never seen anything like that. And I've probably seen 150 chiropractors because we used to have them in the locker room, and every one of them would go, "Oh my God, that's insane. I've never even seen an atlas over here." So you can imagine being how good you are with the body, what that does to your spine over 40 years like that. And pretty amazing that I played golf with a spine like that, but I didn't start really having low back issues until I started training for golf. And then I started having lots of low back issues, like, falling to the ground out of the blue and having chronic pain in my sacrum and not really understanding, and going to millions of chiropractors, millions of practitioners, massage, you name it, everything. And until I found homeopathy, and it even took me some years and probably 4 or 5 homeopaths did I heal my migraines, which was only probably 5 years ago. So I lived with that chronic pain for 45 plus years. So it just really does go to show you, I was pretty aware. I was an athlete, but I was also really into health since that age of 11, because I was trying to always understand how I could cure my migraines naturally and not do any drugs. And so I was really, and I'm a big researcher. I'm someone who never gives up. And if it took me 45 plus years, it's just like I'm just one of those people, and I believe I had to be on that path, because when I finally figure it out, then I'd be able to help the million people that I want to help. So it's part of that what got me to find a Rolfer. And when I was in Boulder, is just these chronic problems. And when I did it there, it didn't help me. So it was one more thing to kind of check off the list. No, that's not going to help me. But slowly over the years, kind of retrying that and finding this amazing chiropractor here that treats just the atlas and actually put my atlas back in 80%. So it was pretty life-changing, and I feel fortunate, but it's a lot of years to get there. So I'm wondering, when you get people, you probably have a lot of people like my story where they just have had this chronic pain. They've tried a million practitioners, spent a lot of money, and they still have the same old pain like you had with your knee. But every week, I get my people who've been in pain for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. And again, I appreciate your persistence and their persistence. And even, when I was injured, I was trying everything. But a lot of times I try to explain to them, most of the time it's just about finding the right thing. And then it doesn't have to take 10 years to get better.
I mean, I have some people, not all the time, but I have some people, they've been in pain for 15 years and in one session, they're out of pain.
Wow.
Because no one has done the stuff I do. It's not that I've developed a lot of skill, but it's just that no one has done the things I've done to them in the way I do them. And the body will respond magnificently if it gets the right input and the right, just a little guidance. Then, mostly you just get out of the way. So I don't know if I interrupted your story there. Sorry.
No. That's how I assumed your practice was, because I know that's kind of what led me in that direction. And chronic pain is like a life sentence. It's horrible. And I just know many people are willing to do anything. And I just feel for those people out there. That's why I wanted to have you on my show, because there's so many people out there that have tried everything.
And honestly, that's why I've built my website, because after, I have my own practice here in Encinitas, and, I see a fair number of people, but there are literally hundreds of millions of people in the world who are in pain, who don't need to be in pain if someone just shows them what to do. So my do-it-yourself joint pain relief website is for all those people out there who have tried everything, and I don't know, they still get migraines, and they've done everything, and I show them how to stick their pinky in the back of their own mouth and release their lateral pterygoid muscle so that they can not have migraines anymore. And
that's so funny that you said that, because that's one video I don't think I watched, and maybe I did, but it was a while back, because I was interested that you had migraines on there. But the first chiropractor I ever saw, he opened my mouth, put a glove on, and pushed somewhere back there so hard it made me cry. And my migraine stopped for 1 year. That was the only year ever that they stopped.
My clients will attest to this, a lot of them, but also from feedback from my website, is I just tell people, because most people who get regular migraines, they tend to be teeth grinders or clenchers, and that muscle gets really tight. And I tell them, look, every morning after you brush your teeth, just take 30 seconds and stick your pinky back there and press on where it's tight and open and close your jaw and release that muscle on both sides. And then you most likely won't get migraines anymore. And I have people I have dentists' wives who have done this, and they're like, I can't believe I don't get migraines anymore. I'm like, yeah, you're kind of a clencher. Even if some people they don't clench enough to need a mouthpiece or anything, but they just hold a lot of tension in their jaw. And it tends to be women more than men. Some men, but I don't know why poor women jam their stress in their jaw. But if they just will do that every morning, they can basically not get migraines anymore.
That's so great. And your website is so amazing. I want to take a second here and talk about it because, well, maybe you talk about it. It's just a series of tons of little movies that are short. Anybody, even someone with a short attention span, you can get it because it's great. It's like 3-minute videos all over, and it's very organized. Pick your ailment, watch your 3 videos, and you got it fixed. But I'd like to know a little bit more about your website, why you put it out there all for free, and how you came about this idea to do that.
Well, the idea was kind of funny because, so over the years, I do lots of different athletic endeavors, and I'm always doing some silly thing to injure myself in some way or another. And so I've learned over the years how to fix myself because like a lot of things, you kind of get frustrated trying to find somebody to do what you want done. And I just started basically fixing myself. And I'd sit on tennis balls and do other techniques, and I'd basically figured out how I could fix most of my body myself. But then I'd be talking to my mother back in Boston, and she's 80 this month, but she'd have her back would be bothering her, her foot would be bothering, and I'd be trying to describe to her how to do this thing that I know how to do where you can fix yourself. And it's kind of hard to do over the phone because she'd end up not laying the way I wanted her to lay and not doing the thing. And so I decided to make a couple videos to help her and just send her some videos. And then I basically realized, that there were, again, like I already said, there are hundreds of millions of people in pain who don't need to be in pain if someone just shows them what to do. And so I just basically, it took about 2 years, but I basically, for every joint in your body, I just made, and for most of them, I make about 3 videos. And because most chronic pain happens for one of 3 reasons. Either you have kind of muscle attachment inflammation, which means basically the belly of the muscle is tight and it's yanking on the tendon that attaches to the bone. But you feel it on the tendon, and everybody works on the tendon, right? But I show you basically how to release the belly of the muscle that is yanking on the tendon, and then it stops hurting. Or the other thing that happens is, like especially with people on computers a lot and modern living in general, they have pain or numbness in their hands or their wrists. A lot of times it's what I call nerve pathway irritation, where somewhere between where that nerve originates in your neck and down to your finger, somewhere along the way, and sometimes in more than one place, that nerve is kind of just being yanked down a little bit by tight muscle groups, kind of like a string. And you feel it in your fingers, or you feel it in your wrist, or you feel it in your thumb, but it's, your neck, or it's coming out of the front of your shoulder, or it's coming out of the back of your arm or your forearm or whatever. So I basically show people then how to release that whole nerve pathway. Or the third thing that tends to happen is what I call just joint imbalance. And I just show you how to basically go around the general vicinity of the joint that's actually hurting and releasing all the muscles around on the other side, above and below, that could be kind of torquing the joint to make it hurt. And 95% of issues that where nothing's ripped or broken, it's one of those three things. And it's a lot easier to come here and lay down and I do it. But if you don't have anybody to do it, or you don't have any money, I'll do some for no money, or you're in Canada or you're in the middle of, I don't know where, you can actually watch my videos and I just have you follow along. I do all the techniques and you follow along and you do them. And a lot of times, basically, the big secret in life in these bodies is that healthy tissue does not hurt when you press on it. So unhealthy tissue is painful or tender when you press on it. And so basically you press around your body or in these areas I show you and you find where it's painful. And then you basically do one of two techniques. I show you how to either kind of knead it like it's dough, because that's what your cerebellum at the top of your brainstem that controls all the settings for your muscles. That's a language it understands to release tissue. Kind of massaging it with oil, your brain doesn't quite get, your cerebellum doesn't quite get that means you want that released. Massage is great for all sorts of stuff. But it's not, if you want to change your structure, not using any lotion or oil or anything and actually working with the tissue more like it's clay, get your cerebellum to understand that you want that tissue released because you're basically pressing on all these little slinkies in the tissue saying, this is too tight. The other thing you can do, which for, 60 years, Rolfers would call a functional release. Now it's become popular as active release. But basically you press on the tight tissue and you make that tissue function. And that again tells your cerebellum, at the top of your brainstem, that you want this muscle to function and we need it released. And so usually by doing one of those two things, you can get the tight tissue that is basically contributing to your pain to release. And once you understand that healthy tissue doesn't hurt when you press on it, so you find all the tissue that does hurt when you press on it, and you do those techniques, one of those two techniques on it, or both of them a lot of times, you can kind of work yourself out of pain. And I show you all the secret places you never would have thought of that you need to press on. Because again, most people think where it hurts is why it hurts, when most of the time, most wrist pain is in your forearm, is caused by your forearm muscles. Most necks I fix are from muscles in your armpit or on the front of your chest. Or if it's the top of your neck, a lot of times you got to release your jaw. Most back pain, it's your hips and hamstrings and quads that you got to release. And your Achilles pain, or your foot pain, a lot of times it's coming out of your low back and you got to release that tissue, or you got to release your calves, or you got to release the bottom of your foot for your Achilles to let go. And I just show you 30,000 bodies later. I show you all the stuff that I learned along the way, because sometimes I'll tell you my tale of getting to where I am. When I first got out of the Rolf Institute, the genius of Dr. Rolf was that, and I mean this as a compliment, not as a critique, the genius of Dr. Rolf was that she kind of idiot-proofed a way to help somebody. You would do a 10 series, where in 10 sessions, the Rolfer goes through your entire body and releases as much tight tissue as they can. And that way, basically, eventually you run into the thing that is causing, say, your back pain or your neck pain, and you release it and people feel better. And it's a great, and again, this is a compliment, it's a great foolproof system for helping somebody. But like Malcolm Gladwell mentions the UCLA study in Outliers, after about 10,000 bodies for me, what used to be a very complicated thing started to become much more clear and much more simple to me. The phrase I like, or the word I like, is simplexity. I could see the simplexity in things. I could see the simple patterns through the complexity of all this anatomy and everything else. And it started to get to the point where it was like, well, it's his back. I mean, there's only about 7 things that are probably causing his back pain. I don't need to release his forearms and release his neck. So I started not doing the 10 series. And then at about 20,000 bodies, it became even more clear. And then I think probably at about 25,000 bodies is when I just said, I think I should just put up a website to show everyone in the world can't get to me how to fix themselves. And, yes, I could charge $49.95 for a knee joint pain relief video system. And believe me, I get so many emails of people telling me I should do that. But I get a lot of emails for a lot of people who don't have any money who wouldn't buy that. And I'm happy that they can fix themselves, and I mostly make my living fixing live bodies in my office, and that's what I do for my charity,
It's really a gift, and I'm sure it's helping so many people because I've already passed on your site to so many of my golf students because all the time, golfers, elbow, back, shoulders. I mean, golf, people think it's an innocent sport, man. It's brutal. It's time to take a break, guys. Go get that nice drink of fresh juice. Hey, our new juice right now in this cleanse is pure pressed organic celery juice. This stuff is amazing. I remember when Norman Walker was raving about it in his juice book, and man, it's true. It heals all kinds of digestive issues. So if you have any stomach issues or digestive issues, try it. You do 16 ounces on an empty stomach. I get up in the morning, do my coffee enema, and then I've been doing my 16 ounce of celery juice right after that. I think it's magical. You guys got to try it. I'll tell you more about it in another podcast. Next, I want to remind you to take your ionic minerals. These are the only kind of minerals the body can absorb, and minerals are so important. When I studied hair test analysis and detox, I can tell you that most people are so out of whack in their minerals. Many people whom I respect their views in our industry would tell you that you can die from mineral imbalances, while vitamin deficiencies are rare. A lot of problems happen when you have too much calcium or not enough, like heart attacks to cancer. And look at potassium. It's needed for our heart to run and keep our electrolytes in balance, and so is magnesium. So be sure to take your minerals, and the ionic form is the only ones we can really absorb. And if you drink the only pure water known, which is distilled water like I do, then you really need to take them daily. The ones I love are Good State Ionic Minerals. They make a trace mineral formula that's awesome. And lastly, to all you guys out there that are using that Amazon banner, I just want to say a huge thank you. I so appreciate you, really. Okay, you ready? Now let's get back to the show. I want to ask you some questions from what you just said there. And one thing was on my mind there about you talking about the cerebellum. So the way that this is working, it's different than just someone laying on a tennis ball and going, oh, I don't know what they call that, like a knot. Mm-hmm. And you just lay on the tennis ball and you go, like just massaging it.
Or you roll around on it.
Right. So
which doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Can you explain why what you do is different than just rolling around on, although it can look the same, you're on a tennis ball.
Yes.
But can you tell me why it's different than just I've told people and they say, oh no, I lay and I roll around on a tennis ball. I go, no. Please just go to this guy's site. Just watch the videos, please. It's not having to do with rolling around on the ball to release a tight knot. It's about something in your brain. Can you just go watch the video? So can you explain that, why it's different?
Yes. First, let me what I explained to some people, and I say this in some of my videos, I think, so that people kind of understand it's a slight difference in perspective, but it's an important one. If someone put you under full body anesthesia right now, all the tight muscles in your body would completely let go as your cerebellum basically was shut down from the anesthesia. So anything tight in your body, all those tight hamstrings and backs and necks and everything would just let go because the cerebellum is shut off and the settings aren't being engaged in your tissue. And then as the anesthesia wears off and the cerebellum wakes back up, that tension all comes back into that tissue. So my perspective on what I'm doing with the body is I don't actually really think I am changing the tissue. I am communicating with your cerebellum that the settings of the tissue need to be changed. And in my experience of working with tissue, now I used to be the traditional Rolfer that does these very long, kind of unfortunately painful strokes along the skin where you get kind of these friction burns from basically these big long strokes that you do with your hands and your elbows and your knuckles and things. And I think that does get some of that result. But my experience along the way has basically shown me that when you have your cerebellum really likes precision and when you're communicating with it. So when you pick a small area and press on all these things like Golgi tendon organs in the tissue, all these little slinkies that are communicating to your cerebellum how tight things are. When you are precise with that pressure, and then if you're sitting on a tennis ball, you're basically doing an active release. You're precise with that pressure, and then you cause that tissue to function or have to move. Then your whole brain is going, oh, we got to get this. These settings aren't working. He's trying to lift his leg up while he's pressing into this tissue, and we need to release this tissue that's too tight in order for that leg to get up and his hip muscles to release. So and even if you're not doing the active release, when I have you do a press-pull release, you're pressing into your tissue and you're pulling, I don't know, a half inch, a quarter inch, and then you go back and you press and you pull and you press and you pull. And that's the language that in my experience and all the bodies I've worked on, that's the language that your cerebellum seems to understand so that it will release the tissue. And I joke that people doing massage, and again, massage does lots of great stuff. Increases venous blood flow, it clears toxins, people feel good, it's great. I'm not criticizing massage, but when you're doing massage, you're speaking French. And your cerebellum speaks German. And, there's some crossover there. You can kind of get some stuff done. But if you start speaking German to your cerebellum that speaks German, you can get a lot done really quickly because now you're really communicating effectively. And one important point, one of the reasons I generally don't actually talk about Rolfing much, my business card doesn't say Rolfing on it because people are under the impression that it really, really hurts. And my work these days is basically working at the level that you can relax into. It's not a feel-good massage, but it's only at the level you can relax into because I've found that maximizes the amount of release I can get out of the tissue by walking that fine line of, it's that feel-good kind of pain.
Right.
And if you go past that, I think you're just putting more static on the line and you're not getting the results that you maybe could be getting. And I apprenticed with a guy, Jim Price, in Palo Alto after I got out of the Rolf Institute, who was one of Ida Rolf's first students. And he claimed that it didn't hurt that much when Dr. Rolf worked on you. And she worked more the way Jim basically taught me to work, by more of this kneading, active release kind of stuff. And I'm not sure, I wasn't there, but I've just found I get far better results walking that fine line. And I say in every video, I think, probably on the way, work at the level you can relax into.
You do.
Because some people email me, it's so painful, or even my mother. Oh, yes, but I'm like, well, you're doing
it too
hard.
Going
too hard.
Yep.
More is not better.
I think what's interesting about that, it's kind of that active motion, whether you're doing the press-pull technique, which the listeners will see when they view your website, because you give perfect descriptions of it, or the press-hold and then you move. It's that active movement that's communicating to the cerebellum. So now that makes sense because in Rolfing, you don't do that. You're laying there and they may move you.
Oh, some will a little bit, but yeah, it's not the predominant mode.
Yeah, it's all your exercises that I've done are like that. And I want to share a little story because I'm a Vespa scooter girl because I live in LA and I hate traffic. Yep. And last October, I was driving in traffic and a lady opened her car door that was parked. It was a tight lane and I was over to the right side because a Harley was passing me and she opened her door and I almost made it to stop in time. I didn't go down. I'm tall, 6 feet tall. I could put my feet on the ground, but her door caught my scooter in my knee. And just the way that she hit my knee rotated my sacrum without me knowing it. I didn't have any sacrum pain that moment, just knee pain. But the next day I got up and I'm like, uh-oh, Lloyd, I can't go for a hike today. My back's going to go out. And it's just, that's all it took because that's my weak area. I realize now, especially from doing your work, I've learned that I don't really have a lumbar problem. It's much more my sacrum and left hip. And now I know exactly my point that when I
know your spots.
Yeah, now I know it's cool because all my career, I always just felt unstable. And I knew that my sacrum was hurt, but couldn't have really told you if that was what was causing my back or my neck. But now I really know that that left side of my sacrum is my weak point. I know which way it rotates. I know what gets tight. But anyway, after that, I went immediately to my chiropractor and my back ended up going out. I went down to the ground. I was on a walker in bed for 2 weeks. That's how it goes. When you drop to the ground, your back goes out. So I started in my rehab doing my acupuncture and my chiropractor, and God, this time it was just taking so long. And so I went to this guy who is like a massage, but he kind of specializes in sports massage, and he says he can put people's sacrum, like help it go back into alignment. So I went to him and he told me about your work because he said one day he fell and his sacrum went out and he couldn't even walk. He was at his daughter's school and he said he had to do this strange move that he couldn't do in public because he had to grab himself in a certain place in his pelvis and move his leg while he was doing it. And he was kind of showing me how to do it. And we were laughing. But he told me, go check it out on Google. You'll find him. And I did. And I started doing your stuff and gosh, it really, really helped me. But one of the things that I wonder if you experience this with other people, you would always say on your video, okay, do that until it releases. But at that moment, maybe it's because it was a big injury and it was really hurt. I didn't really, it just kept hurting. I did the movement and I would do it I didn't want to do it too much, but I did it and it never really like totally released, but I just would stop and then I'd do it again and then I'd do it again. Now I'm like, my hips are more stable than they've been thanks to what you do. I always have a tennis ball in my backpack that I take to work with me in case something happens. So I'm a big believer, but is that a common thing where maybe someone's been chronically so tight that it won't release that day or right away?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. Some people it takes, depending on what's going on in their situation, it either takes more time just because things are so tight and there maybe is a bigger area of tension, and this is why I basically run people through kind of all the three things that could be causing the problem, because a lot of times when you have a really stubborn spot, it's holding on because you need to go release something else. And then you release even like a muscle on the other side of your sacrum that is playing off that muscle, and you release that one, and then the one you've been trying to release will let go, because that's an important thing. Is sometimes you have to be a bit of an investigator and go, okay, I'm going to go round and round and see what I get. And sometimes you get a little, like it is sometimes like peeling an onion. You get a little bit from it and then you go around and do some other stuff, and then you come back and you get a little more. And especially with like frozen shoulders, you got to go around and around a bit. But the nice thing about, I probably don't say enough in my videos, is that like for people who have kind of some issues that are recurring either because of their lifestyle or they were born with their structure a certain way, what's really empowering is when you know your spots, right? And you know, oh, well, yeah, when my back is bugging me, I don't have to do all three Gary's videos. I now know from doing them that I need to stretch my hamstrings and I need to sit on that tennis ball, and then my back stops hurting. And when you kind of know your own system, or, oh yeah, I've been sitting at my computer too long, way too long at this project and my wrist is hurting. Here, just give me 5 minutes to press into my forearm here to release all those muscles that are yanking on my wrist, and then I can get back to work being a programmer or whatever.
Right. That's so true. It's like a feeling of power to know what to do.
Oh, it's so empowering to be able to, and I didn't quite get that for a long time, that like I can fix myself. And I kind of just took it for granted until that's half the reason I put up this website, when I was like, well, God, I mean, kind of anybody can do this. I mean, obviously it's what I do, so I'm a little faster at it, but yeah, being able to fix yourself, that's a great thing.
And when you work on someone, are you finding their spots for them and telling them and showing them what to do? So then once they leave, then they have that, message for their own, what might be happening?
Well, that depends on the client now, doesn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Because some of them say, well, that's why I come here. Why would I do it myself? You live in Encinitas. Why? I live in Encinitas. Why would I spend all that time at home learning to do this myself? And then some of them, yes, some of them are do it themselves, and some a little in the middle.
It reminds me of golf when I'm teaching golfers. I kind of teach the same way you're saying, because I always tell them, be leery if any golf instructor tells you you have a new habit every lesson, because you don't. You're going to have the same golf swing problems that you had 10 years ago. You might might have got rid of 5 things, but everyone has a few habits that come back when you're in a slump. There they are. When you're playing well, they're not there. But when you're not playing well, there they are again. And if you know what those 3 things are, guess what? You can fix yourself before you're done with your round. So it's really nice to teach people how to fix themselves. And that's the whole reason of my podcast here, is to share everything I know. I won't say 30,000 bodies, but it's just...
You have your own wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could say 30,000 different syndromes or illnesses or patient research items. Geez, but I just learned so much from my own journey with all injuries and disease and whatever you want to call it, and my family and my patients and my animals. And yeah, and so you feel like, gosh, if I just see patients in my practice, I can only help so few, but I really, really feel my job on the planet is to help millions. So I just wanted to do this so badly, just to teach people how to empower themselves and take responsibility for their health. And when I came across you after my little scooter incident, I said, wow, this is perfect. I knew I was going to write to you eventually, because that's my whole thing is, come on, you guys, you can get yourself well. You can do this. There's lots of natural things you can do yourself to get better, between diet and lifestyle choices and whatever. And now you have Gary Crowley's do-it-yourself joint pain. So
And I do want to tell you all the shortcut to that very long URL, which Google likes, but it's a lot to type in. If you just type GaryCrowley.com, it takes you to doityourselfjointpainrelief.com.
Okay, well, we'll put the links in the show notes so they'll get them.
But just poor people, if they don't bookmark it, it's a lot to type in.
Yeah, what I noticed now, I just put do it your, and it shows up. There it is.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Oh, that's cool. And then what about emotional stresses? Do you find that when people have like griefs or big emotional stresses, that their bodies can change as much as having a physical injury?
Or it can lead to, like I tell people all the time who are, let's just say they're super stressed and their back's killing them or their neck's hurting them a lot. And I tell them, look, it doesn't have to be some fluffy out there thing that you get stressed, your adrenal glands spit out tons of cortisol, it inflames your tissue, and then your tissue hurts. Like some people want to make it all, it's like, well, you can make it as complicated as you want, but it's a real physical thing when you're emotionally stressed, that your chemistry changes and those changes affect your tissue, and it will usually affect your weakest link, because it's your weakest link. And that gets inflamed. It doesn't have as much room for error as the other areas. And when I'm stressed, my back hurts. I mean, I have people who've their back hurts or their necks, go, and then whatever, their divorce finally goes through and it doesn't bother them anymore. So yeah, absolutely. And so the more conscious people can be, and maybe, I do like the old Zen proverb, let go or be dragged.
Wow, that's a good one.
You can be dragged, but you can also let go.
And it's also a choice. It also really is a choice.
Yeah, I mean, we all get ourselves wound up, but eventually,
right.
It's like, oh, yeah, let go. Huh.
Okay, now for the big question. What's the lifestyle habit that you find gets our bodies most in trouble? And I want to hear you talk about our cell phone habits, what that's doing to the human beings. But what lifestyle habits get us in trouble?
Yes, well, I don't have a cell phone habit, so that's good because I'm 51. So I pick up my phone 3 times a day and see if anybody called. I don't carry it with me or anything, but let's see. So to focus on your question, I'm sorry. Well, modern living, to answer your question more accurately, modern living is very hard on bodies. We're basically, Paleolithic man walked 8 to 10 miles a day just to live. Just the men and women they walked around, dug up some roots, maybe sprinted after an antelope now and again, or ran from something. But we mostly walked most of the day, and then we came back and we squatted, which is great for your pelvis and back and everything else. We squatted in front of a fire, and that was our day. And there was very little stress. And now we have a lot of stress and we don't move, which is the worst of both worlds. And then you sit in front of a computer where your arms, instead of swinging by your side as you walk around all day, they're out in front of you, putting this subtle load on your shoulder girdle, and then your neck's in, your head's out in front of you, and the big bowling ball is hanging out in front of, and your neck has to hold that up. And so I think my basic prescription for people is, look, move more. And more, if you can stretch and move more, then you can undo most of what bothers you. And the less you move and the more inappropriately you use your body in unfortunately driving, computing, all these other things where you're basically not moving all day, the more your tissue gets tight from doing too much or from not doing enough. And so when you exercise after, say, age 35 is my line. If you exercise after age 35, you should probably stretch a little bit after you work out just to undo some of the tension that you've kind of driven into your body. But if you move and you stretch, God, if everyone did yoga and swam and walked, I don't know, half the chronic pain in America would probably somehow disappear.
Wow. Yeah. So it's kind of that just natural movement. And unlike, say, compared to a pro athlete, like when I was on the tour training really hard, you're just one-sided movements. But even in workouts, you're training really hard, pushing your body. Is it possible to have a body be in balance for a pro athlete that's training that hard?
Absolutely. But it takes work. And if you look at most professional athletes, most of them are blessed with a good structure. They come in with a pretty good structure. And that means it can take a lot more abuse than other structures. But I read your bio and your website, throw travel on top of that.
Yep.
On top of your lifestyle. And it's kind of the word, you're sitting on planes and in airports. And then you're doing kind of unnatural, repetitive motions. And then if you're not undoing that, and then you were already from your youth, you already had all these issues in your sacrum, in your spine, and your neck. I mean, that's a lot for you to deal with. It's hard enough with the people who have good structures that are still dealing with all that stuff. But yeah, they absolutely can, because most pro athletes have good structures that are pretty durable. But you'll notice in the NFL, the 24-year-olds spend a lot less time in the training room than the 32-year-olds, because you start getting in your 30s and you can do the same stuff, but you need a lot more maintenance to be able to keep doing it.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, I'm going to say one more thing, though. That somewhere in my probably later 40s or mid 40s, I started realizing that my first goal when I worked out doing whatever I was doing, my first goal was to be able to work out the next day. Because while I was capable of doing more than I usually did, a lot of times if I did too much, the next day I couldn't work out because I'm not 25 anymore.
Yeah, that's actually a good goal, because when you work out too hard, you can't do it the next day.
And you can do it, but then the price is too big, right? So
yes, exactly. So I want to know about the 2 books that you wrote. Can you just briefly tell me? I know they're not about structural integration. They sound very interesting and nice and funny and got good reviews at Amazon, but what stimulated you to do that?
Well, I enjoy helping people relieve their suffering. And I guess the 2 ways that are most attractive to me are physical pain and psychological or spiritual pain. So after reading many, quote, spiritual books for many decades, I felt that the topic of enlightenment was full of all these books that were too vague and no one ever really got down to the root of what needed to be said. So I wrote a book called From Here to Here, Turning Toward Enlightenment. And it is intended as a very precise, concise treatment that would be profoundly clear to people what the main problem is in the human condition that causes their suffering. And so Kafka said that a book should be an ice axe that breaks the frozen illusions within us. And I sometimes joke that From Here to Here is a scalpel that cuts out humanity's primary illusion that causes their suffering.
Very interesting.
And so that's a very intense, precise, concise book. It's 100 pages, but it's double-spaced and it has pictures. And then as an antidote to that very intense, very serious book, I wrote a very funny book called Pass the Jelly, Tales of Ordinary Enlightenment that kind of basically says what I say in From Here to Here, but it hopefully does it while you're laughing, and it just kind of slips in there while you're laughing and having a good time.
Very cool, though. That's neat. You've been on that journey and you kind of just put everything together. And I know a lot of people that read it and wrote a review really wrote nice things about it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a labor of love. I loved writing both the books, and people who, when they ask me, are you writing more? I'm like, well, no, not right now, because if I get the bug again, I will. But,
right. Well, I'm going to put the links in the show notes and all the information, your website, your contact, stuff like that. But tell us and tell people how they can follow you. Do you Twitter? Do you have Facebook? Where can they reach you or follow you?
If you go to my website, is doityourselfjointpainrelief.com is where all my stuff is. I have a Facebook do-it-yourself page, but I don't do much. It's just there for people to find me and maybe come to the website. They're welcome to sign up for my email list on my joint pain site. I don't send out many emails, but I'm thinking of doing more. So with all that. So, but I'm pretty mellow I'm not aggressive at all with any of that stuff. I just do my practice during the day and then try to help people with my website in my free time. And I don't push it too hard. But I do want to thank anyone who spreads the word about it, because this is a one-man show and it's all done through natural Google searches. I don't pay for advertising to get people to go here because it's all free. So anyone who wants to spread the word to their friends or anyone they know in pain, I appreciate it because it's meant for the world.
Right. That's why I wanted you on the show, because I love when people do good work. I want to help spread the word. So before we leave, Gary, I want you to leave us with 3 tips that you can give all of us to get out of pain or stay out of pain. Okay.
I would love people to understand that if they're in chronic structural pain, or if they have structural pain and nothing is ripped or broken, it's most likely just tight, soft tissue that is causing your problem. And number 2, most of the time, where it hurts is not why it hurts. So rubbing where it hurts probably won't get rid of your chronic pain. But if you go to my website or if you understand that somewhere else, some other muscle group is probably above or below where it hurts is probably causing your pain. So where it hurts is not why it hurts. And number 3, and most importantly, you can probably fix yourself with some stretching, with a little self-body work, and you can be empowered to not be in pain. Because again, taking a pain pill might get you out of pain temporarily, but you can actually fix yourself most of the time as long as nothing is ripped or broken in your body.
And if you're not sure if you tried it and you can't, then you just get on a plane and you go see Gary Crowley in Encinitas, California. And Gary,
which happens more than you know.
Oh,
actually.
I bet. Anyway, I better let you go, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to talk with us, because I believe so much in what you're doing that I want to help you spread the word. And also, I love that you teach people how to do it yourself, but I need to come see you.
Yeah, and you're great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Great. So. And we'll be in touch, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Wasn't that great? And now when you're done listening today, be sure to go to his site that I've listed in the show notes and check out the exercises for your joint that has pain or your migraines. When I hurt my back, I did the sacrum exercises, but then I also did the lumbar and the pelvis because I didn't know which one was going to help me, and they all seemed so connected. Doing his work taught me that my chronic problem is always in my left sacrum and hip. So now I know when I get a tight muscle or a knot feeling in my left butt, then I get down on that ball and I do my little exercises, and it really works. We all need to be so grateful and thankful for his labor of love, where he's given all he knows away for free, only to help millions out there out of chronic pain. That tells you what a good soul he is. Gary, I just want to say thank you, because your work has touched me personally, and that's why I want to help you spread the word about your work. I so appreciate all the hard work you put into those videos, and I love how detailed you are in explaining how to find your tight spot, where to place the ball, and how to do the technique. It's fantastic, so thank you. And if you guys feel inspired, you can donate to Gary via his website, but at least pass on his work so you can help other people get well. And lastly, if you're interested in having a great read about spirituality or you want a good laugh, then be sure to check out his books on Amazon. I can't wait to read, especially the one on spirituality, because he says he condensed all he ever knew and read and put it into this one small book. And I like things that take a person's life experience and shortcut it right to the point. And the other thing I want to say, that Gary told me he was so inspired by the podcast. The day I interviewed him, he was on his 4-day water fast. So that's cool. See, we each spread the word and share each other's work. That's the good thing. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show today, my podcast family. You must know what time it is, right? Yep, it's time to say goodbye. Vidal has spoken. Remember, you heal with a plant-powered diet, homeopathy, and detoxing, of course. Peace. Be healthy. Be free. Live life.